I don't care how financially successful you are, how wealthy, how rich, how much money you make. This exercise has tremendous value. What it did for us was it back to the whole topic of awareness. It just brought awareness to some of our spending habits. I don't care how much money we make. That's irresponsible to do that.
Happy New Year. It's 2023. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 6 New Year's resolutions you can actually accomplish. And all of these are going to pay you back in dividends. All right, so
I like what we did here.
Yeah,
I like that we're gonna address like the entire health sphere.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that, because people think of health, they think of like just working out and diet.
Right.
But health is like so many things, encompass health. And we're going to cover, I guess, topics or things you can do in each of the main realms of health. And what we try to do is we tried to pick things that would give you payback, but were also things that you could probably accomplish. So it's not like we went on here and we said, you're going to work out 5 days a week, for example, right? If you're not working out at all,
you don't have to learn calculus. These are very simple things that will go a long ways if you actually take those steps and implement them.
Well, don't you guys think too? That's the strategy of this as we go through all of these. Were there 6? Is there 6 we did?
Yeah.
There's 6 of these that we go through. Because some people might be like, "Oh, that's so basic," or "That's so." I think that's the secret in this being successful. Is I think if I could break down the single biggest mistake that I see clients or people make when they set New Year's resolution is setting it too big.
Yep.
And overwhelming themselves with things that they're not going to consistently do. So I think the secret sauce is to address these 6 areas that we're going to talk about, and then actually making a very simple target that you can accomplish, and then build on that. So that doesn't mean that, because we talk about this, walking for, let's say, 5 minutes, doesn't mean that you don't build on that and maybe eventually do 20 or in a half hour or an hour, but starting with these small obtainable goals and then building.
The idea here is to pick things that are going to provide you some value, that also are somewhat challenging so that it's got meaning. Because if there's no challenge, it doesn't mean anything, right? If it's like just too easy, it doesn't really mean anything to you. But also, and this is the biggest consideration, is things that I can maintain. Because like speaking to weight loss, for example, every year in the beginning of the year, millions and millions and millions of Americans actually accomplish weight loss. A lot of people lose weight every single year. The problem is the vast majority. When I say vast majority, it's like 90%. I think the statistics are over 85% of the people who lose weight gain it back within the first year or two. And I bet if we stretch that out to like 5 years, it's probably 95%, right? So the most important consideration is not necessarily, is this a big goal that's going to like change everything or whatever? It's okay, can I stick to this? Because that's the most important thing. Because think of it this way. If you made small changes that you could stick to, and then once it became habit or lifestyle, you made another small change, think about how far you could go over the course of a year or 2 years or 3 years, right? It's almost limitless in comparison to what we tend to do, which is make these crazy goals and end up failing. And then what happens when you fail often is you lose confidence. And eventually, and studies will show this when it comes to weight loss, for example, people will lose weight, gain it back, lose weight, gain it back. And the odds that someone tries again go down each time that they fail. So after 3-4 attempts, a lot of people are like, I'm not doing this anymore. I totally give up.
I think we also underestimate the value of just becoming aware of like the 6 things we'll talk about. And even though they may seem simple as far as the goals, but I think just becoming aware of this is an area that I want to focus on, or even investigate in my own habits and behaviors, is tremendous value. I mean, we talked before about, people like how much, they eat less just by tracking simply, not even putting parameters or saying, hey, I can or can't do this.
Just by paying attention.
But I really love these categories. These are all categories that I plan to focus on in this coming year. And I like having this like intent of like, I'm just going to move the needle in the right direction on all these things, even if it's just a little bit, and just become aware of my behaviors around all these different aspects.
Totally.
Yeah, and what you want is that lowest barrier of entry, so that way the first step. I forget who said it, but it's like the first step is showing up. Like that's literally the one thing that you need to consider, and it just establishes that this is a new thing, and then you literally can navigate once you actually you accomplish that first step, and that first step is everything. It's so simple, but it's so overlooked all the time.
Now, that being said, I actually think the first one that we have listed is going to be the most challenging.
Of all the ones, I agree with you. Yeah. I agree that this will probably be the most challenging one.
Including myself.
That's exactly 100%. I think this one has a huge impact, and we organized it this way because we all agreed that if you had a chance at dealing with this might be the best way to do it. What's up, everybody? It's 2023. Here's the giveaway for today's episode, the RGB bundle, Maps Anabolic, Maps Performance, Maps Aesthetic. You can win those for free. Here's how you enter to win. Leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop this episode. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Do all those things. And then if we pick you as the winner, we'll notify you in the comment section that you got the RGB bundle as a gift, because you won the contest. Also, this month, January, lots of people starting the workout programs. Lots of people have big fitness goals. Here's how we can help you out. We've taken our workout programs and created 3 bundles, which include 3 workout programs plus Maps Prime for free. Here's what the 3 bundles are. We have the new to weightlifting bundle, so great for beginners. We have the body transformation bundle. This one's great for those of you that have some experience. And then we have the New Year Extreme Intensity bundle. This is for those of you who are advanced. All 3 bundles, we took those programs, put them together, and each one will save you between $300 to $350. So we're talking about like 6 to 9 months of planned workouts all set up for you, okay? If you're interested or you want to learn more, just click on the link at the top of the description below to get set up. All right, here comes the show. So the first category is mental health. And mental health is, staving off things like anxiety, depression, maintaining good mental outlook, feeling connection, somewhat positive. We all know what it feels like to have, we've all experienced poor mental health, like lose a lot of sleep or be distracted too often, and you know what cycle that looks like. Now, there's a lot of things, by the way, in all these categories, there's tons and tons of things you can do, but we tried to pick ones that, again, like I said, were impactful, but somewhat mostly realistic for most people. Now, if we look at the modern landscape, I think most people can agree that one of the largest contributors to poor mental health today is social media.
Oh, yeah.
Social media, now I do want to be clear, social media is a tool, so that doesn't mean social media is evil, but the way social media is designed, how distracting it can be, and how it can distort your view of things because you're looking at perfect bodies, or you're on political pages that just make you more pissed off about the other side, or you're reading alarming articles that can make dangers seem larger and cause fear and anxiety. Like, social media has the ability to really impact your mental health in a negative way. And it hasn't been around for a long time, which means we don't have a ton of studies, but the studies are showing that there is a very strong correlation to use of social media and poor mental health. And they used to think, well, if you're sad, you're going to be on social media more, and that's what's going on. But now we have better studies showing, actually, although that also may be true, just being on social media a lot can cause, or tends to cause, worsening mental health.
I think just simply implementing this once a week fast from it is going to bring awareness of that. Like, I didn't need anyone to point out, and I don't think either will anybody who does this, right? So if you've never done this before, and then you go, hey, you know what? Like, all day on Sunday or Saturday, whatever, pick your day. I'm going to completely fast from the internet. I'm going to stay.
This is my day of no social media.
I don't think I need to tell you the benefits that you get from it. I think if you actually just do it, you will see. It's very, very obvious how much more present you are, how much better your connection is with the people that you're around, how productive you feel, how positive your attitude. I mean, just the list keeps going on and on.
And a good thing to do while you're doing that is to really pay attention when you feel compelled.
Yeah, that's what you'll notice.
To really kind of reach for it, or you're on your phone making a call, but all of a sudden now it's, your thumb's going across and you're hitting that app to open it up again. You didn't realize that happened, just to see how you're mentally just so drawn to this, and dare I say addicted sometimes to just peering in and seeing what the latest thing is that I need to know.
You are either addicted or dependent, however you want to look at it. You depend on that. I remember the first time doing this and like forgetting that, like, wow, I guess there was a time where I'd stand in a line and
just wait.
And just wait quietly, looking ahead, or maybe talking to a stranger in front of me or behind me, or going to the bathroom with nothing, right? Having to maybe read the
a book.
Yeah. Like
it's, the back of
look
the shampoo
people in the
bottle.
eyes.
It's wild when you do it, the things that I think it reveals.
Well, you said something about awareness with this. So you can know something intellectually and say, yeah, I know I'll feel better, and I know that there's probably negative effects on my mental health. But when you fast from it for a day and you experience it, it's very different.
Yeah.
Once you experience it, then you can. It's a very strong motivator for awareness. Now you're like, oh wow, I didn't know, and I'm telling you, I've done this before. It's hard. It makes you far more aware of how you're affected by social media. And the reason why we didn't say, reduce your social media usage throughout the day, or don't do it at this time, or don't do it at that time, is because when you fast for a full 24 hours, what you're going to encounter is you'll notice the benefits, but you mentioned this, Justin, you'll notice very clearly, because it's a full 24 hours, how compelled you are to reach for it. Yeah. And that is a wonderful awareness to bring to yourself, because then you go, I am somewhat addicted to this thing, or it is making me somewhat impulsive. And so you just pick one day a week. And what might help is to plan something during the day. Some people may actually plan to go somewhere where there isn't internet service to help them out.
Nature is a great fix for that.
100%.
I actually have to leave it somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So I have to go plug it in upstairs in my room and just like leave, because if it's near me, I think I know this has happened where I've trained myself so much that subconsciously you just grab it. And like I was using the example of being in line, like you just don't even think about it. You just reach for it and then you grab it. So yeah, and I think that's the idea. So starting off with this one, I think it's less about, what exactly happens in the 1 day fast, and it's more about bringing awareness to it. And then hopefully that promotes better behaviors the rest of the week.
Right.
Hopefully you become aware of all these things that you do.
Create
and then
new disciplines around it.
Right. And so now that you have this better awareness, when you self-regulate naturally throughout the week of like, oh wow, I'm going to try and not do it at this time and like cut back on this. And so hopefully that's what this leads to.
100%. All right. So this next category is spiritual health. And so you may be wondering, what does that mean, spiritual health? Well, good spiritual health provides meaning to life's challenges. Spiritual health helps you reframe tough things, or, things that when you're busy, or maybe you're comparing yourself to other people, or maybe you wish life was different, or whatever. Good spiritual health, it really does. It's like a 40,000 foot view. This is what Arthur Brooks says, right? It's this like 40,000 foot view of your life, of the world. And it does provide this kind of sense of meaning. And there are, look, I don't have to say this, but the data is very clear with this, with that people who have a consistent, regular spiritual practice live longer, are sick less often, are better partners, they're better parents, they're more productive, they tend to be happier, they tend to suffer from depression, anxiety less. So this is a very important part of health.
Yeah, I think it's very important because it's very humbling. And it also helps to kind of alleviate yourself of this illusion that you can control a lot of what's happening.
Yeah.
And to be able to realize there's forces out there way greater than you, and the universe is humongous. And you don't have to apply all that pressure to, make sure you're controlling all of these details and like stressing yourself out so much. It's just a big release of, I'm existing and I'm present in this, and I'm thankful for being here.
Totally. So here's the advice that we gave for spiritual health. 5 minutes a day. That's it. 5 minutes a day dedicated to spiritual health. And it can look like this. It could be 5 minutes of prayer. If you are religious, you believe in God. It could be 5 minutes of meditation. It could be 5 minutes of breath work. And then here's one I really like, 5 minutes of gratitude. What does that look like? That means for 5 minutes, I'm going to consciously write down or think about things I'm grateful for. And that could be considered spiritual practice. That's it, just 5 minutes every single day. I personally like to start the day this way because it does set the tone for the rest of the day.
Yeah, either one. I think it would be ideal. I mean, it's just funny. I think this is kind of like the working out thing, and probably why you gravitate towards that is because you're more of a morning person. I don't disagree that it would probably set the intentions for my day better if I did that. I found I was more consistent doing this at night.
Oh, sure.
I found that
which is the most important thing is consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you, and I wish I was more consistent in the morning time with doing it. But I found that if I was going to be consistent with doing this and adding this into my life, at the end of every day, I would do this, and this to me has added. And I think when you say spiritual health, I know it's going to turn off a certain percentage of people because of the religious tone that comes with that. But I mean, meditation and breath work and gratitude fall right in line with that. And I think that, and just dedicating 5 to 10 minutes of that to start with that, I think will build.
And here's a hack with it. This is how I started doing this, because I found it difficult at first to just set aside 5 quiet minutes. I know that sounds silly, but if you try to do this every single day, and if you don't do it now and you try and do this every single day, you'll find it's actually somewhat challenging to be consistent. So what I did is I attached it to something that I did every single day where I wasn't distracted anyway. So for example, you could do this while you're taking a shower. I mean, you're already in the shower anyway. You're probably not going to have your phone or anything electronics, so you could do it there. I personally do it when I do the steam room. I tend to do the steam room after my workouts. I can't take my phone in there. I can't be distracted. I have to just sit there in the steam. And so for me, it really helps solidify the habit of having this, 5 minutes of a spiritual, for me, it's prayer, every single day. So that's just something that I found it helps.
So this started with me as a self-awareness tool. So I've shared this once or twice before on the podcast, where I just started to take an account of all the things that happened throughout the day. And I've shared this with you guys before, where I would unpack anything and everything that changed my state dramatically, both positively and negatively. So, what made me really happy today?
So it was a reflection.
Right. Like, I did something nice for somebody, and oh, wow, I felt really good inside. I went to, mental note, this is something to foster in my life and to do more of. Or, somebody said something to me that, set me off or triggered me, or I reacted in a way that I don't like. Okay, what is that? Unpack that. Like, oh, wow, it's rooted in some insecurity that I have or some inadequacy. So looking at it like that as a growth tool, by just unpacking my day, I found that, and I could do it laying in bed. I could do it laying in bed just with the lights out and, meditating, pray, whatever you want to, however you want to label it. But I found that as an incredibly useful tool. Later on, I got better about actually getting up and writing it, because I find that reinforces the better behavior. So
yeah, but I like how you started with a way that you could do
that's right.
consistently.
Right.
And then it progressed.
That's right. And I think that, and what progressed that was catching myself repeating some of these behaviors that I didn't like. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this down.
Yeah.
So this becomes something that I'm more proactive, I'm more aware of when it comes or when it surfaces in my life. And I found this as a very, very powerful tool. And then later on, building the gratitude and other things on it. But I think that's the key to this, is starting somewhere simple and easy and becoming aware of the benefits of it. And then you can build upon it as you become more consistent.
Now, one thing before we continue with every one of these categories, what you need to realize is you have to intentionally work on them in order to have health in them. None of these things happen by themselves. So good mental health doesn't happen by itself, right? Good spiritual health doesn't happen by itself. And none of the stuff we're going to talk about happens by itself. They happen when you're intentional about improving it. And again, start small. All right, so this next one is relationship health. So this is the health between you and the people around you. It could be your spouse, it could be your friends, it could be a family member. Humans are the most social creatures that we know of. Isolation is so profoundly unhealthy on humans. It's actually considered inhumane torture by the Geneva Convention. I mean, it is a big deal to have good relationships with people. Studies show that having poor relationships is at least as bad for you as smoking. I think it was 20 cigarettes a day or something like that. We know how bad cigarettes are. We'll have bad relationships in your life and it's like you're smoking a bunch of cigarettes. So this is a very big deal. So the thing that we advised here was that once a week, intentionally connect with someone. What does that mean? For me personally, I like to have a meal with somebody because we get to sit down, do something, and intentionally connect means that we're not distracted. I'm asking you how your day is, how's life been, what's going on. Let's connect and let's foster this relationship.
Yeah, and I think too that people can take this for granted in terms of you having dinners with your family, or you kind of going through the motions a lot, not having that intentional conversation that where you're both there present and really listening and communicating and connecting with that person at a deeper level. So it's not just like a surface, like we're kind of going through the routine of the week and getting check-ins here and there. This is more of like, okay, let's both set that as our guide and try to go a little further with it.
Well, to that point, I think that in my opinion, you have to remove yourself from your daily routine. Like and I know it's not my place to say that doesn't count as relationship building, whether that works for somebody or not. But I think for it to be really valuable, or what I've found is really valuable to me, is to Justin's point, is I have to, okay, we're going to leave the house, leave the normal routine, and we're either going to go to a dinner or go for a hike, or go do something that is different than our normal routine. And I also like to pair this with the day that I'm fasting from tech. So that it forces us.
It works perfectly.
Yes, because I already want
now you're not distracted.
Yeah, I already want to connect on a deeper level with this person. I want to make sure that I don't have any sort of distractions, and so we remove that. I also think that the person that you choose is important. I think that somebody you admire or respect, or that you can confide in, is important when trying to foster that. You could mistake this as a healthy thing by meeting up or hanging out with a toxic relationship, and this could have an adverse effect. You have that friend that
I'm glad you said
that dumps their shit on you all the time, and you're like, well, I'm taking the advice from Mind Pump guys, and I'm going out with this person, but all you do is you talk negatively about other people,
and they never listen to you,
right? Or
taking all that in.
Yeah, you listen to their woes. It's like, no, this is somebody who you respect on a level to trust their advice and their opinions. They come from a place of love and want to see a better version of you. I think it's important that when you're working on this relationship health, that you're fostering relationships that are promoting growth and self-development in yourself. So be aware of which ones that you're trying to foster, and it's not just your drinking buddies.
A good litmus test is, and I've heard this many times from different people, a good litmus test is, does the person celebrate your successes with you, and do they mourn your failures with you? So if you bring a failure to somebody and they're like, oh man, like that really sucks, and you could tell that they feel for you, and when you succeed, you don't sense a little jealousy or competition, like they're genuinely happy for you, that's a good relationship you want to foster. But but back to your point, Adam, it's an intentional, like once a week, intentionally say, I'm going to connect with this person. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to connect other times, because that happens accidentally. Maybe you went for a walk after lunch with your friend, or you're at work and you caught in conversation at the water cooler. This just means once a week, make sure you have a time where you're intentionally trying to connect with this person that you value and that's important to you. And again, that makes a huge difference. By the way, I saw the benefits of this firsthand during the beginning of the pandemic. So when the pandemic first started, at the time, Jessica was pregnant. And so we didn't know much and we were afraid, like, oh my God, we don't want to get sick and whatever. And I intentionally FaceTimed people, and I went through like literally like the Rolodex or whatever, like my aunt, my other aunt, my uncle, my grandmother, and we did it every single day. And it was amazing how positive it was and impactful to intentionally call these people. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Made a huge difference. All right, now let's talk about physical health. This next tip sounds silly. Okay, sounds like nothing, but it has. I mean, studies show profound effects on your health. It affects your insulin levels. It affects how your proteins are utilized in the body. Are they going to get shuttled to muscle or not? It affects appetite later in the day, energy levels. And my favorite thing about this is it's super easy.
Digestion too.
Digestion, it's super easy. And that's this. After breakfast, lunch, and dinner, walk for 5 minutes. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you have to go outside and go for a 5-minute walk. So what I do is after a meal at home is I stand up and I run around or play with my 2-year-old for 5 minutes. That's it. So it could be anything. It could be literally, basically it's don't just eat and then sit down and do nothing. Get up and for at least 5 minutes move. And again, it sounds silly, but the studies show that this has profound impacts on things like insulin, blood sugar, digestion, and health. And if you do the math, 5 minutes 3 times a day is 15 minutes a day. Do that by 7 days a week, and you actually have like a significant amount of activity that you just added to your day.
So we didn't write this down, but I want to add this to the physical health one because this is going to be something I do, and I just recently talked about this, is a sleep routine. So since we're addressing physical health, since we're doing things that I think are good, small, easy places to start, like these 2 things, add the 5 minutes of walking every day after your meals, and then build a sleep routine. And that looks different for everybody. So if you've never done a sleep routine, maybe just committing to a time that you always would have bet, or you've never turned your lights off, after 6 p.m. and done like or you've never done blue blockers after 6, whatever that is.
It's basically a routine to prepare for bed.
Right.
That's it.
So create a sleep routine for yourself. And again, it could be,
By the way, one of the reasons why this is so effective is it sets the stage psychologically for sleep, because we live in modern times and we have electricity. It's our brains basically think it's daytime until we put our head on the pillow, and it takes a second, more than a second, it takes something like an hour or 2 for the brain to process. Oh, it's time to sleep. Oh, it's time to kind of wind down. Now, for most of human history, that naturally happened because it got darker, and the brain perceived this. And we all automatically had a sleep routine. Like, oh, it's getting dark. I'm not going to be roaming around because there's predators.
Gotta wrap it up quick here.
Everybody gather around. Let's start the fire. And by the way, you do this with babies too. They'll teach you to help babies get better sleep, to have a sleep routine. I don't know if you guys, did this, but it's like, oh, bath time, massage them with lavender, lotion or whatever, put the pajamas on and it helps them sleep better. So it could be anything, but, and I recommend people do this for about at least an hour before bed. And it could be literally, again, lights off or no TV or chamomile tea or whatever before bed to create that routine.
Well, it's that point of both of those things with sleep routine and also like creating this walking habit. I mean, for me, anecdotally, was huge because of the digestion component that was briefly mentioned. It was because that would carry with me into especially the first couple hours of my sleep. It was like I would know right away whether or not I was going to get good sleep or not, because it would affect the way my body would react while I was sleeping. And to be able to, properly digest the food, go through its motions, that helped me then to increase my quality sleep.
Well, and notice, okay, we're the resistance training revolution guys and deadlift, squat, bodybuilder dudes, and we didn't say anything about training, weight training, even though we talk and we tout the benefits and of that.
Yeah.
But when you set goals like this, the idea is, I think these are some of the biggest rocks.
Start with this.
We'll get there.
Right. That a majority of people neglect. And even the people that are into working out are neglecting these small things that we can add into the routine. And then as you build momentum and consistency around those, these things will only help you be more consistent with the strength training, hopefully in the future.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that this is beneficial for people who even work out. That 5 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even for people who are super fit, work out all the time, if you're not doing this and you do it, there are health benefits. Again, studies will show this. But I tell you what, if we took every single inactive person in America and they all committed to a 5-minute walk after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'll tell you right now, by the end of the year, if they were consistent, by the end of the year, they'd probably be adding strength training, extra cardio, extra activity. It would naturally happen. And again, that's the point with what we're talking about here. All right. The next one is financial health. And financial health isn't so much, am I rich? Am I poor? Because there's people who have a lot of money, who have terrible financial practices and really bad financial health. Really, financial health is about your relationship to finances and the disciplines and structures that you have around money. And money can be great. It can also be very bad for people. So we started with something really small. Now, we kind of discussed whether or not we should set a percentage, but I think depending on the individual, this percentage can be different. But for yourself, set a percentage aside of your paycheck that's realistic for you. So if it's only 5% because you barely make enough to cover your bills, or it could be 30% because you make tons of money, whatever, set a percentage of every paycheck and say, no matter what, for example, 10% is going to get saved. Open a new account, throw it in there, don't touch the money. So set a percentage and then stick to it. And that's a great practice.
I really like this one. This is something that Katrina and I actually just did this in the previous month. And I don't care how financially successful you are, how wealthy, how rich, how much money you make. This exercise has tremendous value. What it did for us was it back to the whole topic of awareness. It just brought awareness to some of our spending habits, things that we've allowed to slowly get out of control over the last few years and justified it because, we work hard, we make money, we're saving, we're investing, therefore who cares? But really what happened is like, oh, wow, this has really gotten out of control. The amount of money that we were spending at Target and Amazon and DoorDash, it was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't care how much money we make, that's irresponsible to do that. Not to mention, if we were to just be a little bit more disciplined around that, what could we do to put that money to work, and where could it benefit us and other places? And so, yeah, I agree that this percentage is going to change for everybody, but the practice of this and it brings so much awareness around our own habits. I mean, I guarantee there's a percentage of people out there that fell into the same trap as I did, where I don't know how many of these automatic paying services.
Yeah, streaming services and apps.
Yeah, streaming services and apps.
Even accounting for.
I wasn't even using. I think I told you guys on the show the other day, I think it was like, $100 and something or almost $200 worth of monthly reoccurring
just
fees.
Burned.
Yeah, lighting on fire. I didn't even know that I was paying for it because it automatically started after I tried some free trial shit. That's how they get you, right? Where they, try this for the first 3 months and then it's fine print. It's like, and then we're going to start charging you after that.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that sophisticated. You just have to pay attention. I think that the first part of that really is to understand where your spending habits are. Like, so you literally have to track it, and like figure out like this month, this is where all the money went. And you look and see, and it just brings to light things that maybe are pretty easy to get rid of going forward, or easy for you to be able to carve off and do what you said, get to that percentage that you want to save.
So I think the key to this, and this is specifically to people that already run somewhat of a tight budget or don't make a lot of money. This is the conversation I was having with Katrina. It's so important that you do it first right away before you do anything else. Because what happens, and this was kind of the thing that we went back and forth, is when we were like assessing all the stuff, she's like, well, we needed to spend that money on the vet bill, and Max needed this and this. And it's like, there's always going to be these things. And so if it's not there, that's right. So if it's not there, we'll figure it out. we'll find a way. But when it's so accessible, we just justify running it, doing it, keep going. Whereas if you carve that off right out the gates, you'll be amazed on how resourceful you'll become, or how you will naturally titrate yourself.
Priorities will just stack up.
And
accordingly.
the key here isn't how much money you're going to save over the next year or two. The key here is developing a habit. So whatever your percentage is, there's no wrong answer here. Just pick a percentage you can stick to. That's it. Develop the discipline. Later on, this can definitely develop into, I want to save for this, or I want to save for that. But it's not, because what happens if you get caught up in the money thing, maybe it's 5% for you, and you're like, but that's only like, that's only gonna be like $100 a month or $200 a week or whatever the number is. That's not worth it. Like, don't worry about the money. The key here is you set a percentage and you develop discipline around. And this is a big deal. By the way, this is why when you hear stories of like celebrities that, I think, was it you that just read about Evander Holyfield? How like,
I did.
Oh yeah. He's like super broke. Like, these were like people making millions and millions of dollars. And it's like, how did they end up broke? Like, what the heck happened? Or professional athletes or musicians and artists. Well, they had no financial health. They had poor financial health, no discipline. And so they made all this money. And because they didn't have this discipline around it, they ended up in this,
Listen, it's just
situation.
like nutrition with working out and being healthy. It's the same concept. It's not. This isn't about your body fat percentage or how buff you are. It's not about your bank account and how big it is. It's more about your relationship with money. Just like it is about your relationship with food.
Totally.
It's not up to us to say you should be 5% or 7% body fat. Just like it's not up to us to decide whether you have millions of dollars in the bank account or hundreds of dollars. But it is important for overall health for you to have a good relationship with money. One of the best ways to build a good relationship with money is first becoming aware of what your relationship with money is.
Totally. All right. The last one is intellectual health. And this is basically growth. Intellectual growth, where I can learn more, become more aware, challenge my old beliefs, right? All those wonderful things. And really, this is this sounds very simple, but if you do this consistently, it really does add up. And I do want to say, by the way, what you'll find with all of these, including the one I'm going to say, is if you're consistent with it, you'll find yourself doing more than the minimum. So you'll find yourself being like, oh, I'm consistent, and I know it says walk 5 minutes after breakfast. I ended up doing 10 minutes. I ended up doing 15 minutes. So this next one is just read for 5 minutes before bed every night. 5 minutes. And you can literally set your stopwatch. And by the way, make it a paper book because you're going to bed. There's no electronic light on you. Or if you're going to read your phone or electronics, wear
or audio
blue light blocking glasses like Felix Reyes, or audio.
Yeah.
But read a book. Or, along those lines, just 5 minutes every single night. That's all. Just for 5 minutes, turn it off. Or if you're enthralled or you want to continue, you continue. But if you just dedicate yourself to 5 minutes, it's such an easy ask of yourself, because it's only 5 minutes, that you're much more likely to be consistent.
Well, I think the key to these, the 6 of these, is a lot of them pair up.
Yep.
Right. So a lot of these things you can go, oh, wow, okay, while I'm doing this, I'll also do that. And now you can, and by the way, you'll be more consistent if you do that. So if you actually choose, oh, okay, this is when I'm going to do that. That works well. And I'm going to pair that with this one because that's a new behavior. The more of these behaviors that you can pair together, the more likely you're going to be consistent with it. So when you actually start doing the total amount of time and effort towards these things, it's really not that crazy to ask yourself to be consistent with this. And they, believe it or not, are things that really will move the needle when you think about overall health.
Well, yeah, I'll give you an example. We said walk for 5 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. What if one of those 5 minutes you also read or listened to an audiobook?
Right.
So now you did both. What if another one of those 5 minutes, now it's lunchtime, you did your 5 minutes of prayer or meditation or breath work or gratitude? Now you've combined 3 things all into one,
right.
Makes it much more.
And you bring somebody with you on the next run or walk, and now you got that relationship.
No, that's right.
piece.
Then relationship 100%. One you do on the weekend, maybe it's a longer walk and you spend it with a person when you do that.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely pair these.
So there you have it. Those are some things you can do. And if you do them, you will find by the end of the year, if you're consistent, that you will be a different person. Look, if you like our show, head over to mindpumpfree.com and check out our guides. We have guides that can help you with almost any health or fitness goal. You can also find all of us on social media. So Justin is on Instagram at MindPumpJustin. Adam is on Instagram at MindPumpAdam. And you can find me on Twitter at MindPumpSal. Today, we're going to teach you everything you need to know to build a strong, well-developed chest.
When I think of weak points and areas that I struggled with developing for a really long time, chest was up there with the
Yeah, it was for me. It was for me for sure. I got more caught up in the weight I could lift versus how I was developing my body.
I think it's one of the most challenging muscles to develop for most people because the form and technique.